The Rodecaster video was a product that for me, I thought was really going to change my setup. I was really excited about the prospect of Rode jumping into the video switcher space. And the prospect was great. 1080p only, but for me, I work in sports media. 1080p is the top of the top across the board. Not a lot of folks are watching broadcast television in native 4K, so I'm okay with 1080p. 4 HDMI in, 2 HDMI out, a couple of USB-C ports to plug in additional webcams, USB microphones, things of the sort. Rode is a big time company. Rode has quality products. I'm using my Rodecaster Duo right now as we speak, and I have a couple of Rode microphones in addition to that. So the prospect of taking the Rodecaster with the HDMI switching capabilities in the all-in-one production suite that it was being broadcast and promoted to be, I thought this was going to be amazing. Taking the high-level audio processing and the hardware of the Rodecaster Duo, comparing it with the Rodecaster Video. Okay, as I'm growing my setup, adding multiple cameras, and wanting to stop using multiple cam links and USB hubs and all of that, this was amazing. This is going to clean up my desk. This is going to be a streamlined process. Until it wasn't, because there were some capabilities or some limitations of the features that were not discussed, that were not promoted in all the information videos I watched, or more infomercials at this point because of where tech YouTube is at. The thing for me with this product is the way that it was announced and the way that it was hyped out to be is like, this is supposed to be the all-in-one, right? So you have, you have a video switcher at its core, right? And then you have the processing power of a Rodecaster Duo with the 2 combo jacks. But then it's this second piece, the software inside. So in this piece of hardware, you're supposed to have 3 things essentially. You have a Rodecaster Duo with the combo jacks. You have an HDMI switcher with the 4 HDMI ins and outs, and then the 2 outs, right? And then you have the software that comes along with it that gives you the functionality and the capabilities to create scenes and have overlays and bring in your own graphics and store your own videos. It's supposed to be an all-in-one solution, and that's why I jumped at it, because who doesn't want an all-in-one solution, especially when you're talking about a company like Rode that is held in high regard and has proven to put out top-tier products. So I was extremely excited at the notion that this product exists. But there was the first problem, where it was too goddamn expensive, to be quite honest. Like, it was $1,100, $1,200, and I was like, that's too much money. For a 1080p only switcher, that's too much money. Especially when you compare it to other products that were doing similar things, like what you see with YOLObox, what you see with ATEM, even OC. That is too much money. Rode has put out premier products, and that's fine, but that's too much money. But so for me, I was like, okay, well, look, Rodecaster, when they put out the Rodecaster Pro, it was a lot of money. It was like $700, I think, something to that effect. But then they brought out a smaller version, the Rodecaster Duo, and it was significantly less money, or a good chunk less, right? So that makes it more feasible. If the Pro was too much, go get the Duo, right? So when the Rodecaster Video S was announced, which is basically cutting some of the functionality of this in half, but it was significantly cheaper, I thought that might be the answer, right? So that was $500, Rodecaster Video S, so I contemplated that. But because of the price drop of the Rodecaster Video S being $500, this $1,200 product all of a sudden saw a price cut. And I was like, oh, Rode listened. $1,200, $1,100 is too much. It was under $900, which meant what? The used market for this original Rodecaster Video also had to adhere and follow along with the market trend. So I was able to get this used for even less than the $900, which was the price of the new Rodecaster Video after the Rodecaster Video S was announced, for $500. We'll circle back to that, because there's been a shift back into the other direction, I think the wrong direction as of late. So I went out and got the Rodecaster Video, got it used, did not get the S, even though I thought, okay, I think I could work with the S, but let me get the Video, because I think that value that I got it for used is really great. So I get it, and I set everything up, and I'm plugging in all my inputs. I used all 4 HDMI inputs. I'm putting my sources together. I'm trying to share my screen, and I run into a couple of issues. The first issue is that the screen share, when I originally got the Rodecaster Video, it was extremely lagging. And the content I do, I have a sports YouTube channel, and I do a lot of reacting, replaying stuff and reacting to it, commentating, going back and forth with my screen share and reacting to it. And I need the least amount of lag possible. And for whatever reason, with the version that I got, the version of the Rodecaster that I got, it was not great. It was extremely laggy, and I thought it was just me. Then the ISO recording fiasco for me came to be, because I'm setting everything up. I'm trying to get my frame rates right and my resolution right. All right, I want 1080p on my 1080p 60 frames, because again, I work in sports media, half of that in sports television. So I know that the majority of events that are live events, that are high broadcast events, that are events that get the most ratings across the board every single year, are done at 1080p 60 frames per second. So I am accustomed to that. I am trained on that. I like how that looks, so that's what I want for my content. So I'm doing all my content across the board 1080p 60 frames per second. So I'm setting it up, and you can live stream in 1080p 60 frames per second. You can record your program output 1080p 60 frames per second, but you are not allowed to do ISO recordings of 1080p 60 frames per second. And I said, well, that's strange. Maybe I'm on some old firmware. So, all right, let me update all the firmware, do all the things. Now, the new firmware helped with the screen share lag. So now that was less of a red flag, more of a yellow flag. So I'm like, okay, not great, but okay, good enough. All right. But again, you're starting to think this is at that point, not $1,200 anymore, but talking about a $900 product, and the screen sharing capabilities are not that great. They're okay. That's something to navigate, right? So, okay, the firmware fixed the screen lag, or it helped with the lessening the latency on the screen sharing. I said, okay, well, now let me try the ISO recordings at 1080p 60 frames per second. I still get the same message that this cannot do that. And I'm like, but wait, all these videos I watched, all these tutorials, all these unboxings, first impressions, Rode sent this product to me early so I can test it. I'm giving feedback. And not one of you infomercial YouTubers were able to navigate the fact that you can't do ISO recordings past 30 frames per second. You can't do 59.94 and you can't do 60 frames per second. None of y'all realized that. None of y'all noticed that. None of y'all tried that. It's a huge red flag. And I know my use case is a specific one to me. Most people don't even care about 1080p 60 frames per second. But if you're getting a product that can give you the program output of 1080p 60 frames per second, and you can live stream 1080p 60 frames per second, why can't I get ISO recordings in 1080p 60 frames per second? Is it a hardware thing? Is it a processor thing? I don't know, but there's other products that, when we're looking at the $1,200 price point, that are within that ballpark that can do that and more, and do 4K. It really made me question, okay, I can't even get the ISOs for repurposing or just having that flexibility to reuse content. I don't have that. The screen share is slightly improved with new firmware, but it's still not snappy the way I need it to be to do the content that I do. Why am I paying all this money for this product? And that's where it goes left for me, because the ISO recordings is really essential to what I want to do in terms of recutting or repurposing or doing short form, or, you know, if I don't like the edit of the program output, I can always just adjust that in post with the ISOs. That to me really matters. That to me is extremely important to my specific workflow. Maybe your workflow is different. Maybe your workflow, you don't really care about the ISOs, and that's cool. But for me and what I want to do, ISO recordings are extremely important. I'm paying a subscription software that has ISO capabilities built into it, and that's a large reason why. So the reason of why I thought this Rodecaster was going to be so important and so vital is because it had the promise, it had the promotion of ISO recordings. And the videos that I watched, you know, throughout tech YouTube were saying, yeah, ISO recordings on 1080p. I'm like, all right, cool. But that's not really all the way true. It's like a half truth. Like, yes, in 24 frames, yes. In 30 frames, yes. 59.9, no. 60, no. And I think that's the delineation. Like, that should have been said. Like, okay, yes, it could do 1080p ISO recordings up to 30 frames per second. That's it. That would have been the signal to me. Oh, it can't do 60? Okay, I'm good. But no, I had to go buy the product, used the product only to learn, oh, it can't do 60 frames? Wait, hold up, did I miss that? And then I went back and rewatched some of those vids, scanned through it, like, did they mention anything? Like, no, the answer is no, they didn't. And to be fair to Rode, I then dug and went on their website and it was there. Like, you had to dig into it and find it on the website, but they do have it clear on their website. If you can find a page that, yes, this is only limited to up to 30 frames per second. That to me should have been a way bigger talking point. It's a con for me, but maybe not a con for everybody, but that should have been publicized, whether it was all these infomercial videos that were disguised as YouTube reviews and unboxings and first impressions, something to that effect. All the people that, Rode sent the product for them to test and put it through its, wherewithal and give them feedback on. All these people that are trying to get clout off of that because Rode sent them a product early. Y'all didn't test this product. Y'all didn't, because it took me 5 minutes to set everything up and put it in 1080p 60 frames to realize, oh, it can't do that. So how did I realize that in 5 minutes in none of these videos where creators were sent this product ahead of time or got it early or first look or early access, and none of them tried to test it out to 60 frames per second? Like, that's the standard across the board in terms of broadcast. Like, this product is being built as an all-in-one broadcast solution. So if it's an all-in-one broadcast, high-level production, studio production unit, why can't it do the standard that's in broadcast, which is 60 frames per second, or if you're overseas with PAL, 50 frames per second? Why is it limited to only 24 and 30? Why was this not mentioned? And I think that to me is the biggest problem, is that influencers or tech YouTubers or infomercialers, I think I'm going to start calling them infomercialers, are really just taking advantage of what they've been given. And some of them have worked hard for it. Some of them haven't, you can clearly tell. But if you're given a product, you should test that product to its fullest capabilities or use it to your workflow. And if your workflow doesn't include 60 frames per second, cool. I'm okay with you not mentioning it because, like, I don't do 60 frames, but I didn't think to test it. Okay, that's fair. But again, you should be thinking about people outside of just your scope. Like, there's more people watching your content that aren't just doing exactly what you do in your workflow. So you should try to push the limits. We push these cameras to the limits. Overheating tests, test these lenses, sharpness in every corner. We do all this stuff for that. But for a product like this, that is more expensive than some cameras and more expensive than some lenses that get pushed on YouTube. Well, it just doesn't fit in my workflow. 60 frames isn't in my workflow, so I'm not going to test it. That's sus. I think for $11.99, $10.99, if they try to shave off $100, like, it's just too much money for the fact that it could do only 1080p, even though for me that's fine, but I know for everyone has to stream in 4K, 6K, 8K, 12K, open gate, 1080p switcher, the limitations of the software, where the software is good, but it's very basic at this point, and they'll grow. Like, that's the thing. Like, Rode is a company that clearly shows it can grow and evolve. So this isn't a Rode thing, but it's just as an entry into the video space, it's good, but not good for me, for someone like me who wants to push video heavy, in addition to having high level audio, because I already got a Rodecaster Duo. So the two combo jacks on the Rodecaster video don't do much for me, except expand the capabilities of what I could do with the Rodecaster Duo. So I needed a HDMI switcher with the really great built-in software. And oh, by the way, you got some Rode audio processing in it. Oh, that's amazing. That's dope. Sign me up. However, it didn't meet the mark for me. And I think going forward, Rode's going to improve upon it. But I can't put the type of bread they want down now for the promise of what may be to come in the future. Like, I can't do that. Like, when it comes to tech, and I think, Marquez Brownlee has talked about this a lot, but it's a prevailing notion even prior to him and his ascension. Like, you don't buy the tech for the promise of what it's going to be. You buy it for what it is right now. Can this fill a need right now? Can this fill a gap right now? And for me right now, the Rodecaster video cannot fill the gap of what I need. While the Rodecaster did not work out for me, I did find a product that did, and I'm going to be doing videos on that product coming up in the very near future. So if you want to stay along this journey of me as I figure out what's the best all-in-one production hub setup and scenario, stay up to the channel. This is Shield Free Tech. I go by the name of The Sam D. I'll talk to you again very soon.